Hey, I'm Angela Rose Fields, and this is my rig, Fancy. She is a 1982 Ramblette, specifically of the Holiday Rambler series, and she's on a Ford Econoline truck bed. Come on inside and check her out. So when you first come in, you see my shoe rack. So I just took one of the shoe racks that you can get to hang over a door. I cut it up and then just tacked it onto the wall. Super simple, but that way I can kick off my shoes. I can keep them right here at the door. When I'm parking places like the desert or the beach, which is usually my jam, the floor can get filthy and I try to keep the place as clean as possible. So this is a hack that has helped a lot with that. And then right above, we have my coat rack. So I've got 3 hooks and I've piled on all my favorite coats. I got rid of a lot of clothes moving in here, but I kept the essentials. So I've got my poncho, a nice big down jacket, a nice fancy coat, and a couple other things hanging in there just to prepare for whatever the weather has in store. All right, so across from the coat rack, we've got my pantry. You open it on up and there's plenty of space for all of my canned goods, some supplements, baking supplies, all that jazz. So one of the awesome things about Fancy is that she's got a nice big sink. One of the downsides is that there's really limited counter space. So I'm really glad that I have the option, which came with it, to just set this into one of the sink wells, creating more counter space, because other than that, it's really got a great full kitchen. So I've got 4 burners. They all run on propane, which is awesome. And I've even got a really great oven. So it's not completely full size, but you can cook just about anything you want in here, which is really one of the big perks of having an RV versus a van, and one of the reasons that I wanted to go with a bit bigger of a rig. All right, so I've got this really fun backsplash here. Originally, this whole thing was just brown on brown on brown on brown on brown. So there was like a kind of a weird beigey brown faux tile situation. I just covered it up with a simple adhesive tile, and then right here I've got my spices because I do cook a lot. So these are strong magnets. I've never had any issue with them popping off while I'm on bumpy roads and whatnot, which is really cool. And then I went with a fruit hammock since space is limited. This one's a little bit shallow. If I was to drive with this much stuff in there, it would go flying around. So I tend to load up, eat a lot, and then get on the road. As far as cabinet space goes here in the kitchen, so this first one is all snacks and dry goods. In here, I've got cups, coffee stuff, some supplements that I take every night. I've got my plates, my bowls, my Tupperware, some jars. I've definitely had it recommended to me not to drive or not to have glass or ceramics in a rig, but I do have them and it's worked out just fine. So I'm sticking with it. Last cabinet, I have like an all-in-one utilitarian tool that can be like a Cuisinart. It works for smoothies. It's an immersion blender. It's a milk frother for lattes. And then I've got a really big pot in there as well. Okay, when we bring it down below the sink, I've got garbage, I've got different recycling bins so I can separate it out, and then I've got all of my cleaning supplies, extra paper products, everything like that. And then we come to these cabinets, which are awesome. You lift them up so that they don't open up when you're on the road. In the first one, I've got my silverware. Second one, I've got different tools that I use for cooking and baking and some storage bags and whatnot. I've got a junk drawer and another one that's real little, so just has a couple of items in it. Okay, so underneath the oven, it's a little bit of a mess. Things tend to shift around in here, but I've got my pots, pans, cast iron, some different various bowls, baking dishes, and then a wide assortment of teas and herbal loose leaves so that I can make up a brew when I'd like to. Okay, so to the fridge and freezer, I've got almost a full-size fridge, which rocks. Keep it packed full so that I don't have to go grocery shopping all that often. I also have an eco-friendly sunscreen business, so right now, the bottom half is basically just full of product in case I'm anywhere that's really hot. freezer for all the typical freezer goods, and then in here I have my broom closet and keep some just like extra bags for grocery shopping. January 3rd of this year, so 2021, I was living on the Oregon coast. A tree fell on my house. The house was all right, but it was a really stressful week of being without power. I reached out to a really good friend of mine who was living out of his Westie in Baja, and he recommended that I come visit him. So I spent the month of February living out of his Westfalia, and really didn't have the intention before that to live on the road. In fact, I really felt like it was probably not congruent to my nature, since I'm not the most grounded person in general. I try to seek grounding, and this is not exactly the most grounded way to live. However, as I was flying home from that trip, I was journaling and I was dead set on buying a schoolie. That fell through because this just ended up being even a better fit for me. But it really brought me to realize that my dream, which for a long time had been to live half the year in Oregon and half the year somewhere tropical or sunny so that I could get away from the rain and the seasonal depression and just stay active and healthy. This lifestyle made that a reality immediately, instead of having to potentially wait years before I could buy 2 pieces of property or figure that out. In addition to the fact that it's cut overhead costs so much that it's allowed me to really creatively expand in ways that I was desiring, but I hadn't really been able to with the financial overhead that I had paying for an apartment and just cost of living for a quote unquote normal life. All right, so this is the couch. It's nice and big, great for hosting. It also pulls out into a guest bed, which is super awesome. Underneath it, I've got storage. So in this first cabinet, I keep like yoga mat and exercise gear, and then bedding so that I can make the bed for a guest should someone come to visit me on the road. And then under here, the second cabinet, I've got my house battery, so powers the place, connects to my solar panels, and then just some like various project stuff like epoxy and whatnot for finishing countertops. First cabinet up here, the books that made the cut. I really cut down my home library when I moved in here, but I've got books to about here. And then a box of rocks and crystals that I've acquired over time and that I continue to acquire on hikes and whatnot to gift to friends. I've got this sweet skull piggy bank because why not? And then various herbs for smudging and cleansing the place. It's a little messy in here. So because I have an eco-friendly sunscreen business, I have containers for creating more product. I hand make it. So I've got boxes for containers. I've got all of the various things that I add to my booth when I pop up like at whatever location I'm popping up to run the shop. And then I have a bin with art projects that I'm currently working on, because that's an important part of my life and what I want to be doing when I'm on the road. And then this one's kind of junky, so I've got a little sewing machine. I've got like a 200-foot Ethernet cable in case I stay somewhere for a while where I can plug into internet with an Ethernet cable. And then I've got like my guitar and banjo-lele cases up here. Ultimately, there's a lot more space if I really use it more efficiently, but for now this has been great. So this might just look like a little side table, but it's not. This actually pulls out into a longer table. It is pretty awkward to do, so I really don't use it very often. It is really a piece from 1982, I tell you what. But it's cool to have that option. This folds up. This can pull out into a table that could probably seat, like 4 very comfortably for dinner. So back here, I've got my generator, which is hardly used, but in a pinch, it works, so I could. I've also got my inverter down here, which is hooked up to my house battery. And that is solely what I use when I'm off grid and not plugged into electric, is really just that outlet right there. As we move on over here, this cabinet is pretty empty, but it's more work stuff, Sunbutta stuff. There are boxes with different tincture bottles for whatever herbal tinctures I might be working on. And then I've got all the labels for my product. And this is essentially my office up here. So I've got tons of product labels. I've got, you know, like my little filing cabinet with all my super essential paperwork that I need to keep on me, extra notebooks, the likes. Okay, so in here I've got my electronic kind of tech stuff. So I've got a ring light, and I've got a Yeti microphone so that I can do, if I'm doing any like podcast interviews, or I can use them when I'm working with coaching clients over Zoom or what have you. Yeah, more stuff in case I can plug into Wi-Fi. And then I have just like a miscellaneous bin for all of the various cords and things that you need for electronics. Then over on the side, this is a space where I can go ahead and check out to see how much power I still have left in my battery with my solar panels. So in this corner, I've got a plant. She's struggling a little bit right now with how cold it's getting at night here in the desert, but I really like to keep plants in the space for the vibe that it creates, but also because they're air purifiers, and that's important to me. I also have my banjo-lele, which is amazing, and my guitar. Eventually I'd like to just get a second hook to hang the banjo-lele down here, but that's not something I've gotten to yet. So for the time being, they fit snug. And then when driving, I think eventually I will do some sort of adhesive here, like a Velcro or something, so that I can just secure it. Because I haven't done that yet, I pop them on top of my bed whenever I drive just to keep my instruments safe. All right, so over here originally there was an ice maker and then a table that would fold down over it. And then there were these two massive, super comfy chairs on either side bolted down. They had that same wacky beige rainbow flower upholstery. I decided to just get rid of all of it. I wanted space. And really to set it up so that if I'm somewhere where it's like wet and I don't feel like doing yoga outside, I could work out or do yoga inside, which is a real luxury when living in a rig. I ended up looking into all different options as far as what kind of table setup I wanted to get. And I just went with this like basic Camco camping table made of bamboo that folds down really small. Or I can use as a table here with these two accent chairs. A lot of times I am just pulling it up to the couch and using it as my desk when I work with health coaching clients or am doing various co-working activities. The other beautiful thing about it is that I wanted to have a setup that I could also take outside. So this bad boy has an awning, and this can live either inside for socializing or outside for eating dinner in a beautiful place. So originally this floor was all like brown shag carpet. I knew immediately that I wanted to tear it out. So I did, and I was kind of between either putting in some of the like wood paneling or laminate paneling. But when it came down to it, everywhere I live, I really like to have a solid gold accent wall or something. So I decided to go with a gold holographic floor. It's epoxy, so it's actually really easy to do. I just mixed in a lot of gold holographic glitter with epoxy and then poured 2 coats. I might end up doing one more in time just to kind of perfect any imperfections. But at the end of the day, I wanted my space to sparkle, to shine, to emit rainbows, and to be a place where I had a hard time feeling sad, since ultimately my goal in life is to really encompass it all, but be happy as much as possible. So while I'm on the road, as of last year, created an eco-friendly sunscreen line called Sunbutta. So I just started taking that to the farmers markets for the first time this year. I hit the road with a bunch of product and my whole booth to pop up so that I could hit different like van life gatherings and potential markets and whatnot to supplement income and to build brand awareness. It was a natural progression of having been a health coach for the last 6 years. So I am still working with clients remotely over Zoom occasionally. And then last but not least, because I tend to have a lot of different creative projects going on at once, I have been doing quite a bit of modeling. So one of my goals was to be able to travel and book modeling gigs along the way. My main goal when I hit the road, other than getting to sunshine, was to practice music every single day. I've always loved singing, and it's a part of myself that I know I'm like deeply, deeply desiring to express more and share more. And it lights me up in so many ways. So every single day since I've left, I have picked up my guitar, I've picked up my banjolele, I've practiced, I've sung, and it's been a really beautiful experience of starting to get a lot more comfortable performing and singing in front of others, since I'm meeting so many people on the road and we're oftentimes sitting around a fire, and it's just the perfect space to bust out some jams. Okay, welcome to the bedroom. So it is a queen size bed up here. Because it's a Class C RV, the bed is bunk bed style up above the cab, which is super awesome for being spatially efficient. I can curtain it off, close it off, and make it nice and dark to sleep. I can open it up. And one of the really cool things about the spot up here, and one of the things that I love the most, is that because of the 4 windows here, most of the time I'm parked somewhere really idyllic and beautiful. So when I wake up in the morning and I pull the curtains down and just hang out and kind of wake up in bed, it's really awesome to be watching the ocean or the sunrise or whatever amazing scenery or animals are living life around me. So check out this carpet, this amazing, like weird kind of green shag carpet, which I absolutely felt like it had to stay. So I really wanted to modernize most things, but I wanted to keep this carpet. I wanted to keep the cab exactly as it is, as the time capsule from 1982 that it is. So here we are with this very sensually interesting green shag carpet. All right, so in the bathroom, I now have a composting toilet. Originally, this rig came with just like a normal RV pedal flush, uses water kind of toilet. I didn't want to deal with black water, so I went ahead and ripped out the toilet, plugged it, and then just got this really basic composting toilet off of Etsy, and it's actually working really, really well. It'd be even better in more humid environments if I was to like install a fan, but for now, it does the trick, and I'm happy with it. Okay, sink. It's really just a basic sink. You've got hot water, you've got cold water. Bob's your uncle. One thing that I didn't downsize too heavily was my jewelry collection, because I love earrings and whatnot. So because the Oregon coast is really one of my home bases, I just went out and harvested some beech wood and then put just some simple hooks in there. And to my surprise, it works really, really well, even when on bumpy roads. And then under the sink, I have other miscellaneous bathroom storage. And then I've got my water tank under here. One of the coolest things about this RV is that I have a bathtub and a shower, and that is one of the main things that we're all usually searching for when we're on the road. So I went ahead and put all of my like shampoos, conditioner, face wash on something that can hang on a carabiner up here so that it's not just flying around recklessly when I'm driving. I've got my shower speaker, my plants, and then in here it's just kind of your basic setup with a small bathtub, a shower head that is water efficient, and then inside, as you can see, hangs my towel. So across from the shower, we have my closet. I've got plenty of closet space in here. It goes all the way back, so I use it for all of my clothes as well as some additional storage, heaters, luggage, all of that stuff. And then I hang my laundry bag on the back of the door. The cab of fancy is one of my favorite parts of this thing. It is just 1982 to the max. So we've got the captain's chairs that are in like phenomenal shape. I'm blown away. They also swivel, so they open up. You can host more with that. Other than that, up here, I did very little to change it. It already came with a CD player and whatnot, but I did add a rear view mirror so that I don't feel like I'm gonna murder someone every time I back up this vehicle. So out here is my water heater. Takes about 30 minutes after I turn it on to be able to take a nice hot shower. In here, if I was to have the key and open it up, you would see the spout where I fill up the water tank. So I just pull it from a hose. Then I've got these outlets, which, to be honest, I've never used, but I'm under the impression that when I'm plugged into shore power, these outlets work. And then right here, I have a light that runs off of my house battery, which is, while you can't necessarily tell during the daylight, it's a really nice bright light just to have right near the front step. Okay, so in here I have my propane tank. So this bad boy is a 30-gallon propane tank. So far it seems to be that I can fill it about once a year, and that's all I need, which is awesome since it's running my fridge and freezer when I'm not plugged into electric. It heats up my water, and obviously I'm using it when I'm cooking on the stove. So 30 gallons. One of the really cool things about this rig is that while our gas mileage isn't fantastic, I do have dual gas tanks. So I think all in all, I can fill up about 40 gallons, which means for longer stretches on road trips. In here, we have my generator. So should I decide to use it, I fired it up twice just to make sure it works and that the oil levels are good and whatnot, but I'm yet to actually use it because the solar is doing the trick. Traveling solo as a female, to be honest, when I was younger, I didn't used to be afraid. I have since had some experiences that rattled me. So this time hitting the road, I was a hot mess. I absolutely had a week of being afraid, a lot of anxiety. So the last package that arrived before I hit the road was my banjo-lele and a taser, because I was tuning into what I needed to do in order to feel safety. Or to feel safe and to feel safety within my home and within my own body. So I've got two pepper spray keychains and a taser gun that I sleep, or not a taser gun, but a taser that I sleep with next to me. And then I placed stickers around the RV that say, "Smile, you're on camera," to try and deter anyone from breaking in. So ultimately, it's a test of faith and wits, but I think it's absolutely worth it. It's empowering and has really taught me just how capable I am and that I don't need anyone else in order to thrive in this world, although community really is what helps kick it up to the next notch. And together, this community in general is so giving and loving that no one ever goes without. My plans for the road are really to continue to follow the sun. I'll probably stay at least this year in the California, Arizona kind of area. I'm open to things, but my goal is really to set up my vendor booth. So to work music festivals, to work van life gatherings, to work different markets, and to collaborate as much as possible with photographers that want to bring me on for a project, with fellow creatives, who want to create content and whatnot for their businesses. That's really where my passion is lying these days, is creating artistic visions for content and marketing. Thank you for checking out this sweet little life that I have here with Fancy. If you'd like to follow along on our journey, you can follow me on Instagram, Angela Rose Fields. And if you'd like to follow my business, you can follow Expansion Eco Elixirs, also on Instagram.